from Meaningful Ideas and Gentle Parents Unite. And I'm going live. I'm trying an experiment. I'm going live on Instagram and um, Facebook and YouTube at the same time. I've never done that before. I hope that it's working. So, anyways, I was just laughing at myself. So, there's one thing that I'm going to tell you what's going on. So, there's something that I wanted to share with my kid, something that I wanted to talk to her about. And I often, I think of myself as her guide. And so, as her guide, I'm always kind of tuned into where she's at and what she's going through and what she's learning. And is there anything that I can do to help empower her? Right? It's what I call it having an empowerment lens, where I'm always thinking about that. I'm thinking, how can I empower my kid? What can I, if I see something on the internet that I want to talk to her about, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll remember that, or I'll bookmark it. And because I want to empower her and I want her to feel a sense of confidence in herself and power in herself. And the YouTube one is looking weird to me, anyways. Anyway, so I hope the YouTube one is working. And where was I? Right, so I have something I wanted to share with her. And I was thinking of something that would be empowering. And then also sometimes what I do is I notice if like maybe she's like they're down on themselves about something, maybe they're hesitant about something, maybe they're nervous about something, and so then I try and think about ways to help them with that. So I was thinking about something that I wanted to share with my kid, and something that I thought would be helpful for them. And as I'm thinking about it, what I do is, because I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to ever impose myself on her. I don't want like to impose my ideas, but I also want to be there as a support. So what I do is I practice what I'm going to say. Now the reason I practice is because I want to make sure that I'm not feeling awkward about it. I want to make sure that I'm feeling comfortable. I want to make sure that I'm not nervous, that my own stuff doesn't come up, right? I want to make sure that it's clean. So then I'll do it as if I'm talking to her. I imagine I'm calling her on the phone. I was like, hey, kiddo, I just wanted to tell you, I'm really feeling like I want to make sure that you know that when you have something to share with me, you can share anything, right? It doesn't have to be only happy stuff. The happy stuff and the sad stuff, both, I love both, and I really want you to know that. Because maybe I really feel like I want my kid to know that. And because that, honestly, that even though that message is one that I've shared throughout her life, still the message in society and out there isn't necessarily that. It's all acceptable. For me, I want her to know, I want my kid to know that all of them is acceptable. And so I wanted to tell them this and have like a little talk about that, something like that, right? It's not exactly that, but it's something like that. And so, and so I'm thinking about this and I'm imagining myself doing it. So I'm doing it and I'm saying, "Hey, kiddo," in my mind. And then like all of a sudden I'm like getting awkward and I'm realizing I'm like, oh, now I'm awkward. I'm trying to get her, make sure she's okay and not upset. And as soon as I know when I'm nervous and I try and make my kid not upset, then I'm kind of running from the fear of it. And at that point, what happens is I mess up, right? So I don't want to be like trying not to. At the same time, of course, I care about my impact. But caring about your impact is different than being afraid of your impact. Those are two different things. Anyway, so I'm practicing it in my head and I get to this awkward part and I'm watching myself and I just stop and I'm laughing at myself. And I'm like, this is why you practice, Vivek. This is why. And why you also teach all the parents you work with to practice. It's such a great thing. And like I honestly, like if I had just gone into the conversation and started fumbling, she'd be like, what are you even talking about? So I get the jitters out, and then I'll do it a second time, I'll do it a third time. And then what happens is I start to think, okay, well, what are you really trying to say? Maybe I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm trying to save myself from discomfort, right? How much of it is that? and how much of it is like what really needs to be said, you know? And then I start to think a little deeper about it, so it helps me clarify my own message. Help clarify my own message. It helps me clarify the delivery of it, of course, right? That's the point. And so that's why practicing is so important. And you know, when I was studying martial arts on a regular basis, which I'm not so much anymore, because a few years ago I retired from teaching martial arts after decades of teaching martial arts. I retired so I could focus on the parent education stuff because I realized I have so much to share that I wanted to make sure that I put my attention on it and got as much of it out as I could. And so I'm trying to get all of my content out. I'm trying to get my whole philosophy out. I have a lot of stuff to share, and I'm excited to do it. And so, but when I used to take martial arts, I studied with this teacher, Kasem Zugari, who was a world famous martial artist, one of the best in the world. Excuse me. And and he is the one that really showed me the value of practice, because I would practice on his instructions. I would practice millimeters of movement in precision. You know, it got to the point where, you know, I could take like a sword and say, I'm going to cut 1 millimeter off the top of this thing, and I could just at full speed just cut a millimeter, and not really practicing it, just because I understand the feeling of, you know, the weapon and the sword and the movement. I actually have a video of me doing that, and I was going to release it. Maybe I will someday. Maybe I'm far enough away from the world now that I could release it without it seeming like I'm showing off. I mean, I am showing off, but you know, it's different. But anyways, but practice, you know, practice is refining, 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 refining. And so for me, when I have an important message to share with my kid, I want to refine it and refine it and refine it. And partially for me, because then I'm more authentic in what I'm sharing, right? I'm sharing my authenticity more. I'm sharing how I really feel. I'm sharing what I want to impart more accurately. You know, because like often people will say that they want to be honest with their kids, and I'm like, well, if you want to be honest with your kid about something that upsets you, maybe, then you also have to explain why it upsets you. Because, you know, in my childhood, I had these triggers and I was treated this way. So really, it's the imprint on my nervous system, which really has nothing to do with you. So really, it's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility. And then by the time you start being honest, all of a sudden you start taking back the responsibility. If you're really honest, just saying I'm upset when you do this isn't really honest. Really honest means let's dig down and be honest, right? So when we start to work from that perspective, that way of thinking, you know, there's a liberation that comes from it, because we're not trying to control our kids anymore, right? We're trying to have a relationship with them. And this is the thing, right? This is one of the reasons that when I practice, what I'm doing is I'm trying to think, how can I bring my most authentic self to my relationship with my kid? It's not just going to happen automatically, because I have all this wiring from the past, right? So it's not going to happen automatically. So then how can I bring my deepest self to that relationship? And it's important enough to me to want to do that, right? It is. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that work in. So that's why I do the practice. So I want to encourage you to try that, right? If you have something you want to tell your kid, it's been on your mind, practice. And the first few times, maybe you'll feel the annoyance will come out, right? Something you've been annoyed about. So then you do it a few times. If you hear that edge of annoyance, don't skip over it. Give yourself empathy for it. And say very clearly, my annoyance is valid. I will not project it onto my child. It's my responsibility, but it's still valid. So you're not repressing it, but you're not projecting it. And that's one of my things I say: no repression, no projection. And then it's not bypassing, but it's also, you know, managing our emotions with some integrity around the understanding of the power imbalance between us and our kids, and how emotionally dependent they are on us, and what a responsibility that is. But not wanting that responsibility to mean we ignore ourselves. Of course not. So that's why the no repression, no projection, right? We try and do both. But that to do that requires a refinement, like a continuous refinement of our self-awareness, a refinement of our integrity with how we work with our kids, so that we're being less and less coercive all the time. Like my new one-liner is, non-coercion. Non-coercion means non-coercion, not a little bit less coercion. So we're always striving towards non-coercion. It's not like it's something that we always have to dig deeper on, you know. And if you've been following me for a while, you know what I mean. I would love for you to follow me on social media. I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and I love sharing about gentle parenting, conscious parenting, non-coercive parenting, because it's something that can really radically transform how we interact with our kids, how we relate to our kids, and how our kids see themselves and how they see others. You know, when we operate with our kids from a hierarchical mindset, a top-down mindset, and our kids are here and we're here, and we justifiably think that this is how it should be because it's the natural order of things. What happens is our kids see the world as some people are up here and some people are down here. And then they will treat people that way. And they'll see themselves as less worthy and see other people as less worthy. And then all of a sudden you have this mindset that leads to prejudice and leads to disconnection and leads to all of so much of the stuff that we see in the world. But when we can relate to kids as equals, truly, truly as equals, when we can relate to kids as equals, truly, truly as equals, you know, from a human standpoint, you know, where they can feel that we're not exerting authority over them, even if we are kind of corralling them at times. But what they feel from us, especially over the long term, what they feel from us is that we're not controlling them with authority, you know, but with respect. We're guiding them and caring for them and corralling them through life until they're able to, you know, as they increasingly find their way to doing it for themselves, we're there for them. But their feeling is that it was a support, not a coercion, you know. And that's, but it takes a lot of work to do that. But it's so important. So please follow me on social media, on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. I'm Meaningful Ideas, and I would love for you to follow me. I have lots of videos and lots of articles. And if you'd like to work with me on a weekly basis more personally, I would love to see you. You can find out my membership group, which I host with Sujai Johnston, who is the founder of Gentle Parents Unite, which is the Facebook group that we run together with an amazing group of admin. And we have over 90,000 people in the group now. And our membership group is the small group that you can work with us personally for a monthly fee. And that is at gentleparentsunite.com. And that's it, everybody. Peace out. I love you. I enjoyed going live, and now I'm going to go unlive. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to turn off the live and the live. All right. Peace. Okay. And Facebook and YouTube. Yes, I'm sure.